Hey everyone, Julien here, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make colorful, organic house music in the style of Misch and Disclosure. So I'm going to be giving away the project file and samples from this video for free in the description, so make sure to go check that out. And to go along with this video, I've actually just dropped a new mix of organic, kind of like textured house music. You can check it out, it's in the description. It's part of my weekly essentials series. And yeah, let's get started. So the first sound we have here is this Rhodes thing, which sounds like this. This is sort of like an electronic piano Rhodes kind of stuff. If you don't know, the Fender Rhodes is a very famous electronic keyboard piano type thing. And yeah, basically the way I've made this is I've got two layers here, and then they're going into some processing. The first layer we have is this EP faceplant, which is actually one of Ableton's presets. It sounds like this on its own. So I'll show you what this sounds like with actually like no processing. Here is the group with no processing of both of these. So you can kind of see like where we're coming from. And then here's what this EP faceplant sounds like. And then this operator layer underneath it. So yeah, so like I said, the first one that we have here is this EP faceplant. Basically what it is it's one of Ableton's sounds in here. I believe it's a preset for like collision or tension or whichever one this is. But basically, yeah, this is just to get like that kind of like Rhodesy sound. If you don't know what a Rhodes is, like I said, it's an old keyboard made by Fender, which has that like jazzy sort of like soulful sound. And it's really good for these kind of things. And the thing is, it's kind of a hard sound to synthesize. So what my goal was here was basically to have this layer be like the real true like electronic piano Rhodes type of sound. And then this one is on top of it. Adding a bit more high end and kind of like, you know, just boosting it a bit. Like making it work a little bit better in this track. So that's pretty much it for that layer. Like it's pretty simple, like I said. I just kind of took this one and then I layered it with this operator here. And what I did with this operator was basically I made this little like organ type of sound. You can hear it. It's just two sine waves, really simple. Doing some FM. The second one is actually an octave down from the first one. I find that's a good way to kind of give it, like I said, like that organ B3 type of sound. And yeah, this is really just there to kind of, like I said, beef up like the high end. And just kind of make this whole thing a little bit more audible. So then for the effects on here, what I have is first I have this amp, which sounds like this. So you can hear this is adding a lot of texture to the sound. The way I'm doing this is basically I have Ableton's amp here, I have the blues setting, and then I have a cabinet, which is kind of like meant to mimic how like a real guitar amp would be set up. Usually you would have like the amp, what's called the head, which has all the controls on it, and then the cabinet is basically just a speaker. And so, yeah, I have this set up, and this is a really good technique to get those like kind of textured, like more kind of jazzy sounding pianos or electronic pianos like this. This is done a ton actually in this type of music. Like to get, yeah, a lot of times people put like these different Rhodes and like electronic piano kind of things through real guitar amps to get this sound. So that's kind of how I did that. Then after that, we just have a bit of reverb. You can see it's pretty small, short decay time. It's just adding a bit of space to the overall thing. And then after that, I have this EQ8, which is cutting out a bunch of low end and then boosting the high end. So that's where this kind of gets a bit like brighter sounding. You can hear I just cut out some of that low end. It was really clashing with the bass. You can hear when we cut that off, it makes a huge difference. So yeah, I just kind of cut that out to clean it up and make room for the bass. And then I boosted the high end a little bit just to make it a bit brighter and more sparkly sounding. And then finally, I just have a compressor side chaining this whole thing to the kick. So then for the notes on that, I will show you quickly as well. Basically, it's just playing this kind of pattern. It's based around 3 chords. This one, that one, and then that one. And so basically what these are is just kind of like jazzy chords, I guess you could say. You can see they're actually pretty simple. There's really no more than like 4 voices going on at any given time. I believe, yeah, 4 voices. These are just kind of made by taking like pretty basic chords. You can see like there's just a D major. and then an F major, which is a little bit out of the key, but it works here for this vibe. And then this sort of like E, or this sort of F major with the E, with the F down to an E. So just like taking simple chords, and then I have sort of like the notes on top, which are adding more like flavor to it, if that makes any sense. It's sort of like, you know, if you think about like, this would be like your bass sound. Like this would be like how I had these two without any processing, and then this stuff on top is kind of like the processing, if that makes any sense. Like, it's kind of like a similar thing. Like, this is just sort of working with this, but you need the foundation, these notes down here, to be really strong before you can add these notes on top and add sort of, like I said, like that musical texture to it. And then with these like bouncy notes here, they're just playing notes from the chords. Like you can see, it's just kind of doing that. That sort of mimics like what you would do if you were playing this live. Like if you were playing this live, you would have like how there's that little one note there. You know, just stuff like that. And then I try to make it kind of not like random, but a little bit unexpected. Like it's different combinations of notes from the chords. And yeah, that's pretty much how I wrote that. So then the next thing that we have here is the string, which sounds like this. This is really simple. It's a pretty straightforward kind of like deep house style string. It really helps to have something like this over top of everything. I feel like it kind of makes it a little bit, I mean, for one, it makes it a little bit more interesting sounding, but two, it just adds a lot of depth to it. So here's what it sounds like without it. And then with it. You could even kind of have it like, you know, have a part where it's not in there and then it comes in. Stuff like that I just think really, really sounds good. Now I'll also talk about the music theory with this one briefly. So you can see these chords are starting on D major. So you would think D is actually the root note, but A is the note that I went for here, which is actually the, yeah, so you can see that's not D, but if we play D, it just didn't really have the right feel. Like to get that, the way I wanted this to sound, A sounded the best. So that's just basically goes to show, like, if you're doing something like this in one of your tracks, just make sure you check all the notes and, you know, make sure you really got the one that works for these kind of drones. So then for the sound on this one, it's really simple. I just took this string sample, and then I put it in here, and I used this loop function, and I used the fade to kind of make it just like a smooth, sort of like endless loop. And then after that, the only effect I have on there is just a compressor side chaining it to the kick. So that's it for the string. The next sound we have here is the bass, which sounds like this. So I'll show you the notes on this. It's just playing the root notes of what the chords are playing. And then I just have a few extra little parts in here, like these. All of these things, which are just playing notes that are in those chords. Like, yeah, really simple. Just kind of like some extra bouncy notes at the end of every 2 bars. It's sort of like discern the bass. And I think I added this one as well. Just like, you know, stuff like that. So it's kind of like it's lined up with the Rhodes sound. And the groove is really tight. But then you get those little bass notes going into the next part that kind of just give it a little bit of extra depth musically, I feel like. So then for the sound on this one, it's really simple. It's just a saw wave. You can see I set it up like this on the envelope. And then that's going into a low-pass filter, which has this envelope on it, which is like a very small amount of attack. And then just kind of like a pretty standard decay. Yeah, it's a pretty standard kind of like plucky bass. Just something simple and tight that works with this groove. Then after that, I just have a little bit of chorus to give it a bit of depth and a bit of space. And then I just have a saturator, which is set like this. I've got a bit of drive on that. And I've got the sinoid fold for the color mode. And then finally, I just have a compressor side chaining into the kick. Then the next thing that we have here is this percussion, which sounds like this. This is really simple. It's just like this kind of small percussion sample. And yeah, it's just playing like on some extra beats there. You can hear, this just adds a lot of depth to like the drums. If I turn it off, they just don't have as much groove, or they aren't as detailed, but when we bring it in, kind of like a nice layer. This definitely sounds like something Disclosure or Tom Misch would use. And yeah, it's just like a nice way to add some depth to your tracks. It's like kind of like ear candy stuff. And then the key is just getting like a really small sound like this that's not going to take up too much space. So the next thing we have here is the hand clap, which is 3 layers, and it sounds like this. So like I said, we got 3 layers here. We got this one, and then that one. So basically what's going on is the first 2 are panned a little bit. You can see I panned them kind of irregularly so it wouldn't be so just super clean and simple. And then the last one has no panning. And so the goal here is to get like a wider, kind of more realistic hand clap. Like if you were a group of people in a room recording claps, you wouldn't all be able to clap like perfectly at the exact same time. So having them sort of like off like this, and some of them you can see like the way the waveform is, they're kind of like not hitting at exactly the same time, just gives it a little bit more realisticness. And then with the panning, it kind of feels more like people in a room. Like if you had someone over here and someone over here and then someone here clapping, you would hear it the same way. So it's just to give it more of like an organic kind of realistic vibe. And then the only other thing with that is you can see I have all of these programmed the same way where it's slightly before the beat like that. It just kind of helps to make it sound, again, more like human and organic with the kick. You can hear it's kind of like an irregular groove, and that sounds really good. Again, that's a really good way to get like a more organic feel with your claps. So then the next thing we have here are these hi-hats, which sound like this. So basically I have this one, which is playing on all the upbeats. And then these 2, which are just kind of playing off each other. So this is kind of like with the percussion. It's like these 2 are just like that extra like oomph in the beat. Like they give it that extra bit of like, just kind of, I guess you would say like power. Like they just kind of make it work that much better and make it sound a little bit more realistic. You can hear when I turn them off, it falls a little flat. So having these kind of like realistic hi-hat patterns really helps for the groove. And again, it's like the small details like that really help. And then like I said, the third one is just playing on the upbeats, which is also necessary because you can hear when I turn it off, it feels a little empty, but then yeah, when you have them all in there, it's got the full groove. So then the next thing we have is the kick, which sounds like this. And so there's not too much to this. Basically I took this kick, like a pretty standard, like kind of thumpy trap style kick, and then, or like a hip hop style kick, I guess you would say. And then I just kind of put it in here, and you can see I turned on the sustain a bit and the decay, and then I added a pitch envelope to it. So the pitch envelope is how I'm giving it that kind of like punch. Basically, yeah, this is just a really good way to add some punch to your kicks. I know a lot of times people think like, you know, just turn it up a bunch or compress it a bunch or saturate it or whatever. But actually, if you add a pitch envelope to it, it's basically just adding like this sort of hit at the start of the sound. And that's making it a lot punchier. So yeah, really simple there. Just kind of like beefing it up a bit, I guess, with that pitch envelope. Then the last thing we have here is this tambourine loop, which sounds like this. So it's just like a simple tambourine loop. And then I've just got it sidechained to the kick. This just adds like kind of a more realistic percussion in the background. Everything else we have is programmed, which can sound realistic, but when we have like a live percussion like this, I feel like it just adds so much to it, and it definitely makes it sound a lot more organic. And you can kind of play around with this too. Like you can maybe have like a part in the track, like arrangement wise, or maybe like we take out all of the sort of like live sounding percussion, and then we'll take out the string as well. And so maybe like it could start like this. And then you would go into a part like this, where like everything like that tambourine and the live sounding hi-hats come in. Like, you know, it's just kind of stuff like this. Like having more elements like this gives you more room to play around. And if you're stuck with arrangement, having like, I don't want to say a lot of elements or like too many necessarily, but like having stuff like this that you can kind of play around with is a really good way to fix that actually. If, like I said, if you're kind of stuck, like just having things come in and out like that can provide so much inspiration. So that's going to be it for today, guys. Make sure to let me know what you think of this video in the comments, and make sure to like this video as well as subscribe. Once again, you get the project file and samples from this video for free in the description, so make sure to check that out. And also check out my new Weekly Essentials mix, which you will love if you like this style of music. Thank you again, everybody, and I'll see you tomorrow with another tutorial.